What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Distant Threat on Dead of Night. Brian, let's hear the invitation.
Dead of Night is the map where we have to destroy 151 infested structures to clean out the infestation. This would be easy were it not for the fact that the infested structures all spawn enemies at night and attack our base, alongside several special infested enemies can see and shoot further. A Purifier Beam spawns every 10 seconds and chases your army to deal damage. Large bubbles appear on the map that slow down your guys.
We have Edpinhome and Joni in the call with us today. How are you guys?
Doing well.
All right.
I'm recovering from man flu, so I'm a bit grumpy. But other than that,
Hey, that's okay. Grumpy's my normal state, so there's nothing wrong in that regard. So, how do you rank the commanders this week, Joni?
so this is not a difficult mutation. There are long range is sort of increases the problem set of normal enemies to a certain extent, but it's not massive. And then you've got basically two environmental mutators. So the reality to it is, if you can work from home, you're going to get massive bonuses. But it's not complicated. I've ranked commanders comparatively harshly in terms of basically trying to avoid putting like everyone in S tier. But the reality to it is there's not a massive problem set to be dealing with.
What do you think, Edpinhome?
Yeah, it's largely about the defense. It's not much harder to push out during the day, but defense can be a little bit harder. Things like a lot of static defense doesn't work as well because it gets outranged now by certain enemies, like Zeratul's cannons, for example. Chokers can just kill those now. So you have to be able to kind of move forward and not rely on bunkers and static defense as much. But if you can do that, you'll be just fine.
That sounds good. Let's begin. Abathur, where do we have him?
Abathur, I had in A tier. He has a little bit harder time farming sometimes with the long range because enemies don't chase you as close up, so you've got to walk even farther to lure them over the nest. It's a little harder to not take unnecessary damage. But once you've got your Brutalisks up and your Swarm hosts, you can defend pretty much perfectly from there on out. If the game ends up running a little long because you're slow clearing and you have to defend 4 lanes, I think that's where it gets a little bit tougher for him. So I had him in A tier for that reason instead of S.
What do you think, Joni?
I had exactly the same rationale using exactly the same strategy. So A tier for me as well. And yes, there's very little to add to that. I think playing P2 seems the logical thing to do from my point of view, given that you are going to be leveraging swarm hosts for defense primarily. But yeah, A tier for me.
All right, unanimous A tier from both of you guys. Let's put Abathur in A tier. I'm personally not concerned about the defense because he has swarm hosts. What I do is just put Tostic nests that have autocast detonate switched off and target the burrowed swarm hosts there. So they just keep setting the locusts automatically. I'm not sure if that's more difficult in the third night onwards. I haven't had difficulty personally defending as Abathur. Anyway, let's move on. Alarak, where do you have him?
Alarak's defense is not great, but his pushing is as good as normal and relatively unaffected by much. So I had him in B tier on that basis, simply that he's going to struggle a little bit more to defend, and very, very small things. A mothership is a pretty chonky big target. But aside from that, he's going to play pretty normally. You are going to want to have some form of consideration in defense, probably Ascendants, due to the splash style damage they do. But the reality to it is, between Alarak and some decently powered up Ascendants, the defense is not going to cause you massive dramas. I had him in B tier because I didn't think he was as strong as Abathur.
Okay, what do you think, Edpinhome?
Yeah, I think he'll be pretty good on the defense. He's pretty good at clearing as well. I had him in A tier, but I'm fine with B tier on that as well, I think.
Okay, B tier seems fine. Let's put Alarak in B tier. Prestige-wise, third one?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Arcturus, where do you have him?
Arcturus has Earth Splitters for clearing the map during the night, which is nice, but his main defense is usually bunkers, which are going to get outranged here. You can still use the Earth Splitters in a pinch, and I believe if you have some tanks behind, that will be good enough. But I didn't quite have him in S tier for those reasons. You got to be a lot more involved on the defense, so I had him in A.
Hey, what do you think, Joni?
Again, utilizing exactly the same strategy, but I did have him in S tier. I felt that as soon as you throw some tanks into the mix, the reality to it is there are not going to be too many units that so massively outrange his bunkers that with a little bit of additional repair, you're going to be seeing like massive struggles on that one. So although I totally agree that the defense is going to be a little bit more involved than normal, I didn't see this as catastrophically sort of breaking or changing the manner in which he normally plays. The advantage you also have is that if you're going to play P3, which from my point of view, I would probably recommend any of the structures which outrange the ESOs to a certain extent, which is going to be a few of them sort of right in the corners, you are just going to be able to push out during a day right towards the end and just mop up quite easily. So I did have him in S tier. I totally see where ET's coming from in terms of not having him in S tier. My, I suppose, consideration there is I think you throw a healthy bunch of tanks into the mix, and that mitigates that long range to a large extent, if I'm honest.
What do you think about S tier at Benham?
Yeah, I guess that's fine. It was borderline for me, so I'm okay with that.
Okay. I guess we are okay with S tier after all. We're doing that?
Yep, that's fine.
All right. Let's put Arcturus in S tier. Artanis, where do we have him?
Artanis was one of the very, very few commanders that I didn't really see a decent strategic workaround in terms of working both defense and offense better than he kind of normally does it, which is pretty badly, if I'm being honest. From my point of view, you don't really want to have to revert back to using like Reavers or something like that because they're simply not a very good unit. My preference would probably be Storm for defense. That does weaken your offense to a certain extent. However, pushing out with a group of Tempests or simply using Dragoons for everything is completely workable. Having said that, you are dealing with environmental mutators when you're pushing out. You are also dealing with an army which is simply not like that strong in the main. Top bars are not massively useful. They will help mitigate certain things. Space Archon's super, strong unit as always, and certainly staggering deployment of them in defense is a really good way of getting maximum usage out of them. But I do think Artanis is going to have a bit of a tough time this week. I had him in C tier.
C tier. What do you think, Benham?
Yeah, definitely a bit of a rougher time for him. I had him in C tier as well. It's, he's already kind of annoying on this map, in my opinion. So,
Yeah.
doesn't help things.
One thing that I would say, maybe recommend even, is every time Artanis comes up in Infested Mutations, the answer instead of High Templar is Immortals because they deal hit scan, they shoot relatively fast, and they have armor or that barrier thing. So I guess that's what was recommended last time. So you can consider that also. Prestige wise, third one? Or do you want Garden Shell here?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think you necessarily want Guardian Shell.
Okay, let's put Artanis in C tier. Prestige wise, third one, right? Oh, we already said that. Yeah, third one. Dehaka, where do you have him?
Dehaka is very good once he gets set up, but you could struggle a little bit in the early game, especially if you get like chokers night one. Once you get into impalers and things like that, I don't think you're going to have any trouble defending really, and you'll be able to clear the map quite quickly as well. So I had him in A tier, not quite S, but he's very good.
What do you think, Joni? 'Joni?
Yeah, I totally agree with the tiering here. I think I actually went for a mass guardian strategy. I think the splash damage that his guardians does is really, really powerful. Plus they clear buildings really effectively as well. So if you sort of want to keep life super simple for yourself, which being a man of small brain power, I do, you basically just mass guardians, use them for everything. Exactly like ET said, he's going to have a slightly tougher time dependent on the enemy like unit comps or early unit rolls. But the reality is he is perfectly workable, and once he gets online, strong as always. So I had him in A tier as well.
Okay, I guess we can version A tier. That's where he ends up being, A tier. Prestige wise, second one, right? No reason to.
So yes, like second one's super viable. I personally think there's also an argument for playing P3 here, or even P0. Like I don't think that because this mutator doesn't strengthen enemy comps per se, there is nothing wrong, in my opinion, to have P0 or P3 in order to enable you to have multiple pack leaders out to defend multiple entries at the same time. Would be my logic, but P2 works equally well.
That makes sense. All right. I guess we can go third prestige, second prestige, or no prestige. Let's move on. Phoenix, where do we have him?
With Phoenix this week, I would probably not advocate playing P2, mainly due to the necessity to defend sort of multiple lanes, for want of a better word, at the same time. So personally, I think it is a bit of a pick your poison whether you want to play 3-1 if you want, super powerful nuke suits, not really that you need them. The reality to it is the mutators don't affect him massively. Having potentially looking at sort of P1 to just move out with a single unit, zap some buildings, etc., and then move on may be viable at the same time. I don't think it's really necessary, but yeah, I don't think he has as easy a time as some of the A tiers this week. At the same time, I don't think it's massively complicated. I think similar defensive strategies to normal, use of Colossi, etc. So I had him in B tier.
B tier. What do you think, Edwin Home?
Yeah, I had him in B tier as well. I think P2 isn't like horrible, but yeah, I'd probably recommend going P0 or P3 or P1 or something like that. I think all of his prestiges are okay-ish. P2, the advantage is that Caudalis is basically just defends one entire lane. As long as you're not up against chokers, then he can basically just fully defend one lane by himself. And if he dies, he's pretty easy to replace.
This is inhumane.
And then you just kind of defend the other lanes as needed. But I think with Phoenix, you're probably able to clear as long as your ally is remotely competent in time for Night 3, so you're not having to deal with 4 lanes. So I don't think it's going to get that bad. But yeah, I had him in B tier as well.
All right, B tier for Phoenix. Prestige-wise, first one, right? But second one isn't bad. Is his first was better?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think so.
Moving on to Han and Horner. Where do we have them?
I actually think it's a somewhat blessed week for Han and Horner. The mutators aren't horrible for defense for her. You're kind of just defending the same way you normally would. You just have to, run up to the enemies a little bit more because of long range. The thing with Purifier Beam on this map, it doesn't really affect hardly anything generally because it can't actually come into your bases. So when you're defending, it doesn't really get involved. So you're basically just dealing with long range. Time warp doesn't even really happen, anywhere that matters during defense as well. So it's pretty much just long range for the actual defense. So that doesn't hurt too much. And then with strike fighter platforms, you can pretty much solo clear the map while defending by Night 3 pretty easily. So you're never having to deal with too much. So I think she's pretty good. I had her in A tier. I didn't quite have her in S.
What do you think about A tier, Joni?
Her and him.
Yeah, I had her and him, they in A tier as well. Actually, I think their offense is absolutely sort of top tier. It is completely work from home. You literally never need to leave the base. However, their defense is relatively involved. I would say significantly more involved than Manx, for instance. So I had them in A tier as well, utilizing very similar strategies. I think probably defensively a combination of Widow Mines plus sort of Hellion Hellbats from my perspective, but probably playing P1. I would avoid playing P3. But yes, A tier from my point of view, very, very, very good, but not without defensive pitfalls.
Okay. Both of you agreed with A tier. Let's put Hara and Horner in A tier. Prestige-wise, first one, right? You don't want the third. You don't want the third one, especially since you're on 3 gas. If you go third prestige here, by the time the game ends, you'll have 11 air strikers, which cost you 4,200 gas.
Instead of on night 4 instead of night 2.5.
Yeah.
So.
My Donnie. Yes, don't go for third prestige. It's not time. The time to go for third prestige is very, very long games or lucky envelopes. That's basically it. Anyway, I personally disagree with A tier because it's because it's more important to defend because anyone can clear because the mutations aren't as strong. But it's not my tier list. It's yours. Let's move on. Karax. Where do we have him?
Karax is someone for whom, personally, I don't think long range makes as much difference to the static. Partly because you've got, particularly if you're playing P3, you've got the option to help out your own static using Orbital Strike or Solar Lance. But the reality to it is monoliths also have extremely long range, and therefore, if you've got vision of the units that are attacking you, which sieged up observers can provide, then you really shouldn't have too many dramas dealing with them. Potentially the balance of monoliths to cannons may be slightly different to normal, but I think the reality to it is his static is simply so strong, and the enemy, despite being longer ranged, are actually not really enhanced in terms of the damage output, that I don't really think you should have too many dramas here. One of the things that you might want to consider due to long range is building your static actually slightly further into the base than normal in order to really make use of that proper funnel into the base. In terms of his offense, very, very straightforward as per, sending observers out and very simply using top bar. Yes, you may occasionally find yourself in a situation where it's sort of where did that observer go? Oh, it got Purifier Beamed by accident because I was paying attention to something different, but, build another one and crack on. So I had Karax in S tier. I think, the reality is the mutators don't make a huge amount of difference to him on this, I don't think.
What do you think, Edmund?
Yeah, I think Karax is pretty darn good this week. You have Kaderan monoliths, which do outrange everything, even with long range, I believe. And you have top bars for anything that doesn't get outranged, and yeah, you have good clearing potential. It's a pretty straightforward thing for him. So I had him in S tier.
All right, S tier, third prestige, right? Right? Hello?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
I was wondering if my line died or something. Anyway, Kerrigan, where do we have him?
Kerrigan has some issues in the early game with chokers. Again, if you get chokered on Kerrigan, I don't know what you're going to do about that on night 1, really. Zerglings, I guess, hopefully, but they're just going to get killed by the infested. Beyond that, I think she'll do pretty well when she gets set up. You have lurkers and hydralisks or lurkers and whatever else to defend. And then when you're pushing out, Kerrigan herself obviously can, after you get set up, can realistically be pushing all night long, baby. And you can go for really any other units you want. Brood Lords for tanking. You can get Ultralists to help bust the buildings. Whatever you want to do. Omega Worms for delaying and getting back if you need Kerrigan to get home, so on and so forth. So I think the early game is quite rough for her, but if you can make it past that, she'll do pretty well. So I had her in B tier.
B tier. What do you think, Yoni?
I think I've got a great and classic song in my head now, and that's probably the only thing that I'm going to be able to concentrate on for the whole of the tier list. So cheers to that one, ET.
You're welcome.
So I completely agree. I think that whilst there may be the option to play P1 here, because as we all know, sort of Malignant Creep is absolutely superb on this map, particularly when combined with lurkers, etc.
You could even say it's Malignant, right?
Say again, sorry?
You can even say it's Malignant on this map.
Oh, super Malignant on this map. Having said that, I don't think, because as we've stated before, because there is not much of a requirement to sort of shore up your defense more than normal, I actually don't think it's necessary, and I'd probably suggest playing either P3 for building zapping or P0 Instead, Omega Worms give you really, really good like blocking at home. So personally, from my point of view, I actually had her in A tier. I think that she's got a pretty decent arsenal, and when you combine some Broodlords in with Lurkers to really shore up that defense at home, but give you a bit of an offensive option if you don't want your Lurkers to be pushing out during the day as well. I think she's got a pretty good arsenal here. I don't think it's particularly complicated. I certainly do think that she's got significantly better defensive and offensive options than the commanders we've got in B tier.
She's got a pretty good what?
Like offensive and defensive spread.
Okay. What do you think about A tier at home?
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's just the early game. You're so reliant on Kerrigan, but that is only if you roll chokers and your ally is incapable of helping you against the chokers at all, which is not that tall of an order. But yeah, I think it's
not.
fine.
It's not that uncommon, to be fair. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are you realistic? If you have to deal with the choker yourself, what are you doing? You know,
I'd hide behind spine crawlers. That's what.
I guess, but the choker can outrange the spine crawlers.
Yes, that's why I send Zerglings in, so that the choker would choke those. Then I send Kerrigan.
Maybe, yeah, I guess. That sounds a little iffy to me, but I'm okay with A tier.
It's totally iffy. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it is a way. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's a way.
What is a good way to deal with the Night 1 chokers, Kerrigan, by yourself?
Let's cross the bridge till we get there.
I think we should just. There's a lot of A tier. We may as well have some people in B tier. You know.
Okay, so
yeah, you know what? I am kind of happy with that. I think she put it this way, compared to the commanders we've got in A tier currently, she is probably slightly ropier. So I'm happy to put her in B tier now, and we can always revisit it later if we want to.
All right, I guess Kerrigan goes to B tier. Prestige wise, no prestige.
I think probably 0 or 3.
Yeah, or 3rd prestige. Yeah, that works too. All right, moving on. Nova, where do we have him?
I'm going to take a very, very quick bathroom break if you don't mind, chaps. Sorry, I'll be back in 30 seconds.
All right.
Sure thing.
What do you think, Home?
Yes, I think bathroom breaks are S tier.
All right.
Like, Nova's great this week. She's got P3. You can snuggle around the map completely undetected, doing whatever you like.
Snuggle?
Snuggling. It's a very technical term. Sort of, sneaking plus something else. But it's a good word if nothing else. But P3 Nova plays more or less totally normally. There is, in reality, you can take your units out on the map during the day if you want to, but there's absolutely no requirement to. It simply finishes the game earlier. But combination of siege tanks, liberators, etc., defend as normal. They've all got absolutely vast range, so long range makes no difference whatsoever. So I've got Nova in S tier. She plays completely normally.
All right. What do you think, Home?
Yeah, Nova's pretty good. You have great tools, so I think S tier is pretty reasonable.
All right, S tier for Nova. 3rd prestige, Raynor. Where do we have him?
Not as good. Raynor has the problem of being Raynor, relying on bunkers, which get outranged. He does have siege tanks, but they're bad siege tanks compared to the Arcturus siege tanks. But if you get them out, that'll be okay. Clearing the map quickly as Raynor is kind of a pain in my experience. And the early game could be a little bit annoying trying to get your economy up. But if you survive that, he'll do his part reasonably well, I think. So I had him in C tier.
Yeah, it's very sad you can't even do the Raynor cheese. Just fly to the corner because there's a Purifier Beam. You can't even do that as Raynor. Very sad. What do you think, Joni?
I did the same thing. I just didn't think
You flew to the corner. That's a bad idea.
No, sorry, not close to the corner. I did the same thing as ET in the sense of just playing normally and sensibly. I mean, albeit not as well and with significantly stiffer fingers, I suspect. yeah, I didn't find his defense to be so shocking that it was completely unworkable, and in fact found that it held perfectly adequately. I sort of felt that we weren't necessarily looking for things to hold indefinitely, just long enough. And I think that utilization of top bars to clear in combination with some form of either like Banshee hit squad or additional BCs being dropped in sort of a bit later in the game. My experience was basically you get your static shored up and then look to build up your sort of clearing units at home prior to sending them out, and then hoping to get the whole lot done quite fast. He's not fantastic, but I did feel that he could hold well enough, basically. So yeah, I had him somewhere between A and B tier actually, although I think particularly given where we've put Kerrigan, more B tier. But I certainly didn't think he was as bad as Artanis. So I would plump for B tier.
Yeah, what do you think about B tier, Evan?
I mean, it's not that far off of C tier. I don't know. I just compared to like
I don't think
Kerrigan,
he's
like-
Artanis bad.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
siege
I guess he
tanks,
does actually have bunkers and repair and siege tanks. Sure, yeah, B tier's fine.
right? All right. Raynor goes in B tier. You're welcome, Raynor fans. Moving on, Stet Boy, where do we have him?
Step Boy is another commander who basically plays completely normally, particularly when you're playing P2. Gary can clear the map on his own without any dramas at all, really. There is no requirement for your units to leave home. And then effectively a combination of whatever you like. Go into, Turbo Mecha Broodlords if you want to. Probably wouldn't advise it. Probably stick with, Lurkers, Slings, etc., all standard stuff. But again, the reality to it is he can deploy a single hero unit onto the map, which is perfectly capable of clearing in its own time and pretty effectively. And his defense is more than good enough, particularly when Super Gary is helping out at home, that he really shouldn't have any dramas. I had him in A tier purely because I didn't think his clearing was quite as efficient as the commanders in S tier. I had him nearer to a kind of Abathur Dehaka, but he's also highly unlikely to get broken at home.
What do you think, Edmund?
I was a fan of his clearing. I had him in S tier. I think you pop E to run to whatever the next area is. Lay down your Steadites. You should have plenty of Steadilite spread available over the night. You have your maxed out Steadites, and then you clear with like Zerglings. Once you have the 3/3 Zerglings, like buildings are gone. So I had him in S tier. I think he's especially because he's just so good at home, and for your ally, he's so good at home. Like I don't think you're gonna have many problems.
What do you think about
Yeah,
S tier?
I'm super happy with that. Yeah, I was sort of looking to be persuaded on this one, and it's it hasn't been a complicated task. So I'm very happy to have him in S tier, and like ET said, he's simply not going to get broken at home. You can hold indefinitely. So have fun with it. Take your time. Yeah,
All right.
S tier is good for me.
S tier is good for everyone. Make sure you have Zerglings by the first night, just in case you roll Jokers. S tier. Moving on, Stukov, where do you have him?
Stukov is all right. He has P3 and P1 optionality. I think, you can really go for either one. P3 is going to have more trouble in the later stages of the game if you do go that long, which it's not the best at clearing, so you probably will go that long. You're only going to be able to defend realistically like one or two angles, and so you are relying on your ally there. P1, I think you're going to be able to clear pretty quickly. You have your siege tanks, you have your diamondbacks that you can kite with. So I think he's pretty good. I don't think he's perfect, though. I had him in A tier.
What do you think about A tier, Joni?
I completely agree with A tier. That's where I had him. I had a possibly stronger caveat of I think P1 is absolutely the way to go. Diamondbacks clear really quickly. Siege tanks provide really effective defense. None of it's absolutely perfect because you are sort of diluting one to do the other. But at the same time, I don't see why you would have any specific and sort of game breaking problems. I really don't like P3 for this map because it's slower to clear as you get ramped up, and it's also harder to defend multiple lanes later on. So the point at which he sort of really comes online and becomes powerful is the point at which this sort of P3 single funnel psi beacon doodah starts causing you problems. So I sort of caveat my A tier by saying that I don't think P3 is the way to go. But anyway, A tier for me.
Okay. Both of you had A tier, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's put Stukov in A tier. Prestige wise, first one. There we go. Moving. Oh, by the way, if you still want to go for the third prestige, if you still want to go for the third prestige, I recommend using the overlords to bait the purifier beams into the corners and do a hexagon thing, so that the beams chase your overlords instead of the infested. Swann, where do we have him?
I viewed Swann more as a strong Raynor this week than a weak Karax, which I appreciate will be controversial to some. However, hear me out. His Flaming Betties are less effective than normal because of long range. They are one of the units where they're still going to do a huge amount of work on the basic infested. However, they are going to be more vulnerable to the some of the longer range stuff that comes at you during the night. As a result, your defense is not as perfect as it normally is on this map with Swann. He still doesn't have too many problems clearing stuff. The reality to it is once you've got your defense up and running, you get a nice balance and you chuck a load of wraiths at it or something like that. And, there is no requirement to simply clear with the laser drill here if you want to play like P2, for instance. Having said that, his defense isn't quite as bomb-proof as normal. It should still hold up without any dramas whatsoever. However, it is going to require a bit more attention than normal. That's why I had Swann in A tier this week.
A tier. What do you think about A tier, Evan?
I would argue that A tier is slightly stronger than Raynor and slightly weaker than Karax, but I may be crazy. I do agree, though. I think he's A tier. You're just not quite as good on the defense. The Flaming Baddies, I think you mainly just want to have them a bit farther forward compared to your other turrets. So when they're under the ground, hopefully the infested Terrans walk to hit the other turrets, and then the Betties can pop up if they're not already dealing with infested. But yeah, I think it's not quite as good as Karax. So A tier.
I think the only real threat to the Betties are the special infested, specifically if you get chokers and kaboomers. The spooters, well, even without mutators, they just destroy the Betties. So what you can do is fly a factory out so that the laser drill does work on the special infested, while the flaming Betties do the work on basically everything else. Because abs and the infested are both melee, it doesn't matter. The long range doesn't matter to them. Also, I like their offense because you just point the concentrated beam at certain sections of the map and you can clear like 11, 10 buildings at a time. Really good. And then once you have wraiths out, the rest of the buildings don't really stand a chance. But that being said, A sounds totally fair. Let's put Swann in A. Moving on. Oh, Prestige, second one, right? Not first one, second one?
Yeah, I think
I would.
you could totally go P1 because it's going to make the defense for the first couple nights kind of a breeze, but I think it's going to slow you down in clearing the buildings, so I would probably still go P2.
Right. Moving on. Tychus, where do we have him?
Tychus is pretty good this week. He has the splitting abilities, and he can go in any direction he wants to, which is always very good. He doesn't care too much about being outranged because he just takes 2 steps forward and then everything dies. And you have Blaze, who really doesn't care much about long range, and you can just kind of chain kill everything, even the buildings. Obviously, Blaze is just really, really good on this map, and there's not much here that's stopping him from still being that way. So, yeah, I had him in S tier.
He's fire. What do you think, Joni?
Yeah, ET's basically said it all. He plays more or less completely normally, really. So I don't see why. Yeah, I didn't really see any reason. The mutation simply doesn't really disrupt his gameplay at all. So yeah, very happy with him in S tier.
All right, S tier for Tychus. Don't drag it to night 5 and onwards. You have been warned. Second prestige, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Also, make sure you have turrets in front at night 1. You don't want Tychus to get chokered unless you already have a medevac platform at that point. I'm not sure I have a medevac platform at that point, but if you do, go ahead. Send Tychus out. Who cares, right? Moving on.
No, I was going to say, like, frankly, I would have Tychus out on the map clearing during night 1 and then play Sirius defending. Like, Sirius defends perfectly well on his own during night 1, I would suggest. But
makes sense. He's seriously good. Moving on. Vorazun. Where do we have him?
Vorazun, I didn't think was great. She has obviously very fast clearing, as always. However, her defensive options, yes, you've got, excuse me, yes, you've got sort of cloak walls, etc. However, long range is going to prove, I would suggest, like more of an issue in that regard than normal. So I think her defense is sort of significantly weakened. She's got options to a certain extent, but I think the special infested, potentially with the exception of hunterlings, basically all provide her with just slightly more issues than normal, which are more of a nuisance to deal with. So I had her in B tier. I was not convinced by her efficacy this week.
What do you think, Edwin Hum?
I was even less convinced by her efficacy this week. Yeah, there is the cloak wall, which is solid, but just only having 3 gases obviously hurts her quite a bit. Vorazun is always gas starved, so you can make a lot of cannons at least with that. But yeah, I don't think she's horribly great this week. I don't think she's terrible either, though. I had her in C tier.
What do you think about C tier, Joni?
I'm really happy with that. Yes, as I say, I sort of question her ability to deploy force this week, so very happy with C tier.
All right, we may question her efficacy, but we don't question her being efficacy. Moving on, Zagara. Where do we have him?
That was
Zagara. Zagara is almost as awful as that joke was.
No, it's not. It's a great joke. What do you mean?
Anyways, yeah, I think Zagara is going to struggle. She already doesn't like this week much. Bio launchers for defense are good, and then you can clear, but I think it's just a bit of a pain. If you're good with the bio launchers and everything, though, it's probably fine. I had her in D tier, but I could be fine with C tier probably.
What do you think about D tier or C tier, Joni?
I totally agree that deploying bile launchers and knowing how to do so and getting the splash patterns correct, etc., is even more important than usual this week. And it's also something which is not a given. Like, it's not just build bile launchers and sort of chuck them anywhere. But I do feel that if you get that right, she's not in a catastrophic position. Equally, she's not too strong. I personally feel that probably playing P3 using Zagara's hero unit to pretty much solo clear the map using roach drops, etc., is probably the way to go on this, and leveraging as much of your army as you can at home to defend. It's still not going to be great. So I had her in C tier.
Okay, both of you had him in C tier. Let's put Zagara in C tier. I wouldn't have agreed, but okay, both of you put him in C tier. Moving on.
Which direction do you not agree in?
I was putting her in E, but they put her in C, so let's have her in C. Moving on. Oh wait, yeah, okay. C tier has a prestige recommendation. What prestige would you put Zagara in?
I would say P1 or P3.
My money.
Probably P3.
Third prestige? Alright. Let's get Zagara chokered as well. Zeratul, where do you have him?
Zeratul I had at the other end of the spectrum. I feel that, yes, his cannons suffer a few more problems than normal, but at the same time his monoliths have exceptional range and they will disrupt anything that's going to cause cannons enough of a problem to allow you to get some projections out and get up close and personal with some long range special units. So I didn't see that as too much of a drama. Having a DT hit squad with Zeratul to just bump around the map, taking out buildings, is standard practice and probably the way to go on this as well. So I didn't really see Zeratul having any more problems than normal dealing with this. I had him in S tier.
S tier. What do you think, Edmund?
Yeah, I had him in A tier because Night 1 chokers, if you accidentally get Zeratul grabbed, then the cannons can't help. But I think S tier is probably fine because that is a bit of a niche case. And you can micro around chokers with Zeratul. So
What do you think
yeah,
about?
it's probably fine.
What do you think
I think
about?
S tier is probably.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to log that I did have him in A tier myself, but I'm willing to go to S.
I'm willing to go to S too personally, but it's really up
Especially
to you.
because then we'll have this perfect little like one less on each tier, you know? Like I don't want to ruin that.
Oh my Donnie, that is true. Let's ruin it. There we go.
If we're gonna ruin it one way, I'd have to do that. You know?
All right, let's put Zeratul S tier. Prestige wise, second one, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, has to be
You can trap
one,
the
I think.
artifact. Cannons don't cost anymore. Yeah.
All right. So, do we have a double S?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Top of S?
Karax.
Yeah, maybe even Nova. Like, I think no, probably Karax over Nova, to be honest. But yeah, pretty close, I suspect.
All right.
Cannons can't get chokered.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Neither can spider mice, but that's true. Well, who's third?
I would say probably Tychus or Zeratul. I think Menx.
Yeah, Tychus. I love Blaze.
Yeah, Menx has more problems than. I think this mutation creates Menx more problems than anyone else in S tier. I'd be inclined to say. I think maybe even Stetmann above Zeratul, to be honest, because Stetmann is pretty hands off.
Okay. I mean, he's literally hands off. He doesn't even come out as a hero. He just uses bots and stuff. So he's very hands off in general. Moving on.
And Gary doesn't have hands, so
he doesn't have hands. He has like a shooter thinger. Who's top of A tier?
I would say one of the probably Dehaka, right? Because once you get going with Dehaka, it's kind of completely free. It's just the early game can be a little difficult.
Yeah, I was almost wondering whether Abathur's actually ahead of Dehaka this week, but no, I think you're right. I think that by the time you get Dehaka up and running, he is better. So yeah, happy with that. But I think those two probably belong at the top.
Yeah,
then probably. I think that's probably not bad.
Really?
I think Hot and Horner should be the bottom of A.
Yeah, I still don't think Hot and Horner belongs here, considering defense is so important. And
defense is important, but Hellbats are really good on the defense. Widowmines are really good on the defense. Reapers are really good on the defense. Like everything you're fighting is a light unit, basically.
They clear
everything you're
so
fighting
far.
is a light unit, and they're all bonus damage to light units. And then the big guys you have Hellions for.
They clear so quick. They clear so quickly as well. If you're like appreciating that if this was purely based on soloing, they probably wouldn't be there. But if your ally is contributing like anything at all to defense, then they are going to like whip through this map.
Yeah, I mean, like you can clear before night 3 without ever leaving your base, basically, with Hot and Horner. Yeah. You're just using the bombing platforms, which means you could focus purely on defending if you wanted to. Obviously, I'd probably still clear during the day, but like you probably don't even have to, and you could still do it by night 3.
Yeah. Okay. But no, I think that's fair enough though.
Okay. Who's top of B tier?
I think probably Kerrigan. Actually, do I think Kerrigan? Yeah,
Raynor
I would
has
say
repair, so I'd say he's at least second.
Yes, I totally agree with that. I just think Kerrigan pushes out much better than Raynor.
Kerrigan's a lot stronger after the first night. Raynor's stronger, on the first night and then weaker later.
Kerrigan is
I think
blonder
Kerrigan's
than
probably better
Raynor.
overall. Because you're not too worried about night 1, you're just worried about getting done by like night 3-ish. So I think Kerrigan's probably better.
Yeah.
And then I think I'd prefer to be Alarak over Phoenix.
Yeah, that sounds good. Who's top of C tier?
Yeah, I would.
Well, not Zagara. I think this is probably. I am questioning Zagara being in C tier. I think Zagara is definitely worse than these two.
Right?
Okay. I'm happy with that. I haven't tried playing with Zagara, so I'm very happy to demote her.
I hate to remove her from D tier and mess up the formatting, but or from C tier. Probably put her in D, I'd say. I do think bio launchers are genuinely not bad on the defense, though. But they are
not bad,
and all the money you're putting into those is money you cannot use to clear.
Yes. They just.
But in theory, you can be clearing all night long with Zagara once you have enough bio launchers.
That's true. You just need to spend so much money on offense as Zagara. That's the problem. Anyway, who's top of C tier?
P3 Zagara, though? No, I mean, if you're basically just clearing with Zagara, you clear pretty quick with Banelings, with her Baneling spawn and with the Hydro spawn and the Roaches. Like, you don't have to actually spend that much into offense.
No, this was my thinking about it, is that basically you can. I mean, yes, she's not by any stretch of the imagination got impermeable defenses either, but I think that you can probably hero clear without.
And again, D tier is not carrying, or C tier is not even carrying. If your ally is doing half the clearing, Zagara alone can clear at least half the buildings by night 3 without any assistance from units.
Yeah.
And that would be C tier.
That was kind of what I was thinking. That I'm not convinced she's. I don't like playing Artanis on this map, so that's a point in Zagara's favor in my book. But
have we tried
Tempest? Does not have
disintegrate? That's true. Have we tried Tempest disintegrate?
On the buildings? I don't think that would work great on infesting it.
No, the buildings. Yeah, the buildings to clear.
Yeah. No, it's more of his defensive options that I just find to be quite involved. And if your ally's really not doing anything, it sort of feels there doesn't feel like there's much of a safety net. But no, I'm pretty happy with that. I think by the time we get to C and D tier, it's sort of you
splitting hairs.
You play those commanders at your own peril.
Yeah,
pretty much. So are we happy with this order?
Yeah, I think that's good.
All right. Yeah. If you got a guy defending, if you got a guy defending, and you're playing as Artanis, I do recommend doing the disintegrate snipe. It's disintegrate. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for what else, please leave it in a comment. I will see you guys next time.